This is a video for the DC Crime Analysis Part 1. All right, so the first thing we need to do is go get our data, and you can go to Open Data, DC, and search for whatever crime data you're looking for, and the year. In this case, I'm looking for 2022, but if we're looking for a different year, you can do that. Go ahead and open that up. All right, so here we are. I want to download this crime incidents, and I want to do a CSV. So my download is complete. I go look in my downloads folder. I have my crime incidents here. You can ignore any of that. And I am just looking for crime incidents. I'm going to open up this file. And you can see it's right here. So here is our data right here, and we have all the information that we need. I need to download this as a CSV file, so you can save it, download it as your CSV. Okay, so you guys know how to do that. All right, and I'm going to close that up. And I'm all done with the open data site. So now what we need to do, we've worked through all of this, but we need to get the crime incidents into a map. It's too big to put into its own, to just drag right onto the map. So we need to make a feature service, our own feature layer that's going to live in our content. So I go to Content. And the way I do that is I go to New Item, and I want to take that crime data, that CSV file, and I'm going to drag it into my data set. There we go, next. Yep, we're going to use X and Y. Just keep all the defaults. We're using latitude and longitude as our locating, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my initials and period here. All right, so once we have that data, I can open this in Map Viewer or Map Viewer Classic. And that is going to come in right here. Now, sometimes it ends up being plotted as block group or something strange, so just go into your change style and do show location only. I just want to see the location of each of these crime incidents from 2022. All right, so we're good. We have our data in a map. So we have gotten all of this. We're all set. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we are now on approximately, let's save our map. Let's do that. So once we get this data in here, let's save it. We're going to save it as DC Crime 2022 with your initials and period. I'm saving my map. All right, so now we have gotten down to number 13 here, okay? So the next thing we need to do, this is what your map should look like. So insert a screenshot of your map in number 14. All right, so the next thing we want to do is number 15. We want to look for when was the last crime reported in 2022 and how many total crimes were there. And the way we do that is we have our crime layer, and we can open up the data table. And I have this little bit right here. I can open this up. So my report data, I can sort descending. And that's going to give me the latest time. So the latest crime reported was 12/31/2022 at 11:31 p.m. It was a theft from 6900 block of Willow Street Northwest. So there we go. How many total crimes were there in the next question? Always, when you have features here, that's the number of data points in your data file. So 27,159 is the answer. There we go. All right, next thing we want to do, we want to add the DC Wards 2022 layer. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to close out my data file. I'm going to add, search for layers, ArcGIS Online, DC Wards. DC Wards are the neighborhoods that are the way they do the government. So I look for DC Wards, and I am looking for, DC Wards 2022, I think that layer is called. And this is perfect. There it is. That's the one I showed you. So that's going to go ahead and give us the wards once it adds into our map. Oh, it turned itself off, so I'm going to turn it on. And there we go. So now I see those wards. I want to go ahead and create labels for those. So I go into create labels. I do the ward ID number. I can make it, let me make it like a real bright color so we can read them. I just want the numbers in there. And there we go. Oh, and you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to go back into manage labels, and I'm just going to make that font size a little bit bigger to 15. Okay, and see, now I have all of my numbers right there. All right, let's go look at the next thing. So that was number 19. Okay, and then you can, we're all out of there. You can go ahead and show your teacher your map to make sure you've got all of this right. And then go ahead and pause and reflect. What did you just accomplish in Part A? The next thing we want to do is aggregate. We want to use a new skill from analysis called aggregation, and we want to use that as kind of a summary tool. So the first thing we need to do, number 22, filter the crime data for offense is homicide. So we want to go ahead into our crime data. Remember, crime incidents 2022, that's our crime data. We go to the filter, and we want to find offense. The offense is, I hit unique, and I want to just look at homicides. I'm going to apply that filter. Now I only have homicides plotted. All right, so we come down here. Now let's go look at this aggregation. All right, so if we go here, we're going to go to the analysis tool. Go up to analysis. Always in feature analysis. So far, we haven't learned the other yet. And we are in summarized data. We want to aggregate points. That's our tool. So what are we trying to aggregate? We're trying to aggregate the crime incidents. We want to see how many incidents happened in each ward. So the polygon we're using is the wards, the neighborhoods, and each of those is a polygon, and it has a certain number of homicides in each one. We can see they're more concentrated in others, but we want an exact count of those, all right? So we can leave 3 alone. We can leave 4 alone. Might add percentages. No, we're not going to look. We're just going to leave it as fields, so let's leave that alone. Can always check my credits to see how many credits is this going to cost. 0.18. Perfect. That's no problem at all. If you're under 5, you're good. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this time. I don't have a lot of credits. I want to make sure none are going off the page. So run analysis. So our aggregation tool is done. It's run its analysis. And we now have all the words, and it looks like it's put us into counts and amounts. Yep, so it filled each one with approximate number, but we want to know the exact number because our job here is to fill in how many there actually were in each ward. So how are we going to find that? Well, we're going to go into our data table here, and we're going to lift it up so we can see everything. And here we are. We have the ward number and then how many homicides. And I see right here, Ward 8, 78 homicides, by far the most number of homicides in Ward 8. So you can go ahead and use your data to fill out this. And then I want you to look at your, distribution here and talk a little bit about which wards have the most using the table, and I'll show a legend here, which wards have the most, which have the darkest color purple. All right, so that gets you. Then I want you to pause and reflect. What did you just accomplish in part B? All right, we're moving on to part C. We're going to now create a heat map. We want to, number 26, remove the filter for homicides. We want to see every single bit of data. So I go back to content. I'm going to turn off my aggregation analysis. I want to go back to my crime data, and I want to click. So I go into filter. I'm going to remove that filter. All right, so now I just have all of my data. In order to do a heat map, we go into our change style, show location. I just want to see where is the concentration of data, and I want to see it in a more general way. Like I have individual dots, but I want to see what is a heat map of it. So this is a heat map. We hit select there, and that is going to go ahead and light up where the most crime is. And now heat maps vary. If I zoom in or zoom out, the colors may change a little bit. Don't worry about that. This is kind of a quick and dirty way to see back of the envelope to see where most of the crime is. So I kind of get it so that most of my DC map is here, and I can get a feel for where is most of the crime. And there we go. That's a really nice picture. Here's a good screenshot for you. And where is most of that crime? On the border of 1 and 2, and then right where 5, 7, and 6 meet. There's quite a bit as well. Those are the main places where most of the crime in DC is. All right, so that gets you through all of these. I want you to pause and reflect on part C. You're going to give me a screenshot of your map. And we're moving on to part D. So now we want to do a different summary, but this time we're going to use a different tool called Summarize Within. So the first thing we need to do is remove the heat map. We can't do analysis in a heat map, okay? We've lost the points. So we're going to go back into change style, remove all the points, hit done. Now we're back to our starting point. And remember, we have our aggregation, but we're going to leave that turned off because we're going to do a different summary, okay? So we're in part D. We're going to create a summary table using the Summarize Within tool. All right, so we've removed that. We now need to filter our crime data, so we're only going to look at robberies. And we're going to look at robberies, how many robberies occurred during each shift. So we're going to get a little bit more complicated with how we're looking at things. That starts with offense. We want the offense to be only robberies is what we're looking at, okay? Apply the filter. There we go. All right, so we have robberies. We got that. We also need to add a larger boundary, okay? So let's add the Washington, D.C. boundary. In order to do this analysis, we need Washington, D.C. boundary. So nothing's showing up. Oh, look, I have a space there. This is always so picky. We're looking for as close to the one that I have as possible. I don't want stones points. I need a solid polygon in order for this to work. And here's the one I'm looking for, the Washington, D.C. boundary. There's others that would work, but like a points one will not work. It will not contain the analysis. That needs to be a line or a polygon rather type of data. Okay, so we now have the Washington, D.C. boundary in. I come back out, and you can see if I turn the words off, I have a nice outline of the entire D.C. boundary, and I'm going to use that to do my next analysis. So if I go back to the assignment, here we are. We now have the polygon of the Washington boundary, and we need to do new analysis skills. So now we're going to summarize the data, okay? And it's going to give us the specific examples of how we do that. Analysis, feature analysis, we're summarizing data. Last time we aggregated the points. This time we're going to summarize within. Let's read it. Choose an area layer to summarize other feature within the boundary. There's a polygon. We're using the boundary as the polygon. Which layer are we trying to summarize? We're trying to summarize our filtered crime incidents. So we filtered it for robberies only, but we want to grab the crime incidence data. Remember, we've already filtered it for robberies. That's why it's not the full data set. Once we're here, now the field that we're trying to group in our table is the shift. We want to look at how many robberies there are per shift. So I'm going to grab shift out of that data. I'm going to go ahead and keep my my name here. I'm just going to simplify it with my initials. I do want in number 4 to add percentages in my data table that it's going to create. I'm going to check my credits to see how many. 2.07, perfect. That will work fine. Anything under 5, you don't need to worry about it all. You can go ahead and run. So I'm going to run that analysis. And let's see what we end up with after. And here's our results. It took a couple minutes to do. And I have noticed when I do summarize within, I have 2 layers that are added to my content. I have this layer, which you can look at, count of points, show location only. This doesn't tell me much right here, okay? This is just the area and how much we've done. So we can look at things there, but that's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the table, all right? So I want the table. And if I open this table down here, I can look at the data table and I can see, here's my data. So I have, remember, we already filtered the data we're looking at for robberies. So count of points. How many robberies were during the day in 2022 in DC? 415. What percentage is that? 20.06%. So on and so forth. How many in the evening and how many in the night shift? So there's our data. So that is a data table. I don't see that on my map, but I can make a graph of that. So that's where we're headed now. So you can open up, give a screenshot of your summarized table like I just showed you. That's the layer added at the bottom. And then I want you to reflect. What did you actually just do? What did you look at in this part D of this assignment? All right, now the last part, we're going to create a graph of the data. So what we need to do next is we need to go get this and export it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save my map so I don't lose any of that work. And I am going to go to my content. And I'm going to find this data table. So here is my summarized crime incidents, right? So I can open this up, look at the item details page, which is the first thing you see. Oh, back. Oh, here we go. I'm going to look at this layer right here. And notice when I look at that right where, the product of my summarize within, I want to export that data to an Excel file. That's fine. I'm going to export that. So this is exporting an Excel file to my computer or to my content as well. And once I have that, here it is. All right, this is my Excel file. I download that because I want to put it into, I want to put this spreadsheet into Google Sheets so I can make a graph. All right, so here we are. This is our data. Now notice, this doesn't look like much, does it? So notice it gives you 2 sheets within this workbook. I want to go to the second one, group by summary. There's that data table that we saw at the bottom. So again, this is the top layer we saw. Not that helpful for us in what we're looking at, but the group by summary is. Now, I want to make a chart. So what I'm going to do is on your computers, you'll be able to save this to if you go to File, Save as Google Sheets, that's fine. Let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. I'm going to go into a new Google Sheet. You should just be automatically able to do that straight from your Excel file. But if not, I just pasted it right into here. So now I have it in a Google Sheet. And let me show you something. This is true generally in Excel as well. I want to look at the shift versus the percent. I don't want to look at count of points in this graph, as you see in the directions, okay? Mine is going to be shift versus percent. So how do I do that? I go to my spreadsheet and I highlight, see the shift, and then I hit control, okay? Control, and that allows me to highlight two columns that are not next to each other. That's a real nice shortcut that is true in most data spreadsheets programs, all right? Now I can go into insert. I want to insert a chart. And here we are. I have the shift versus the percent point count. Now, if you're not seeing everything you want, you can go ahead and customize chart and access titles. You can change the text here, change color. You can do all kinds of stuff. But that is essentially what we're looking at in terms of the chart that I am looking for. So now you know how to make a chart. All right, so if we come back to our assignment, we've made the chart. You're going to copy and paste that graph that you made, that chart, and then you're going to pause and reflect on what you accomplished in E, and you are done with the assignment.